The Space Race, a Cold War competition for cosmic supremacy. The space race, a captivating and intense competition between the United States and the Soviet Union, unfolded during the Cold War, primarily from the mid-1950s to the mid-1970s. This era witnessed a relentless pursuit of technological superiority in space exploration, driven by ideological rivalry, national prestige, military considerations, and the sheer human desire to explore the cosmos. The race spurred unprecedented advancements in rocketry, satellite technology, and human spaceflight, leaving an indelible mark on the history of scientific and technological achievement. Origins in Cold War rivalry and technological foundations. The seeds of the space race were sown in the aftermath of World War II, amidst the burgeoning Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. The development of long-range ballistic missiles during the war demonstrated the potential of rocketry, not only for military applications but also for reaching beyond Earth's atmosphere. Both nations recognized the strategic and symbolic importance of space, viewing it as a new frontier to assert their technological prowess and ideological dominance. The Soviet Union, having suffered immense devastation during the war, was keen to showcase its scientific and technological strength on the world stage. Their early focus on rocketry, spearheaded by brilliant engineers like Sergei Korolev, provided them with a significant initial advantage. The United States, on the other hand, possessed a robust industrial base and a strong tradition of scientific innovation, which it would eventually leverage to catch up and ultimately surpass the Soviet Union in key areas. The competition officially began on August 2, 1955, when the Soviet Union responded to the U.S. announcement of its intention to launch artificial satellites as part of the International Geophysical Year, IGY. This marked the formal commencement of a race that would capture the imagination of the world and drive both nations to extraordinary feats of engineering and human courage. Early Soviet triumphs, Sputnik and the dawn of the space age. The initial phase of the space race was marked by a series of stunning Soviet successes that sent shockwaves through the United States. On October 4, 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik 1, the world's first artificial satellite. This small, beeping sphere orbiting the Earth caught the US completely off guard and triggered what became known as the Sputnik crisis. It fueled fears of a technological gap and prompted a significant increase in US government funding for space exploration and scientific research. Just a month later, on November 3, 1957, the Soviets followed up their initial triumph with the launch of Sputnik 2, carrying the dog Laika, the first living creature to orbit the Earth. While Laika's mission was not intended for her return, it provided invaluable data on how living organisms could withstand the harsh conditions of spaceflight. These early Soviet achievements demonstrated their superior rocket technology and their ability to achieve significant milestones first. The United States struggled to respond effectively in the early stages. Their first attempt to launch a satellite, Vanguard TV3, ended in a spectacular explosion on the launch pad in December 1957, further exacerbating the sense of American technological inferiority. It wasn't until January 31, 1958, that the U.S. successfully launched its first satellite, Explorer 1, which carried scientific instruments that discovered the Van Allen radiation belts surrounding the Earth. Escalating the stakes, humans in space and the race to the moon. Following the initial satellite launches, the space race intensified with the focus shifting to human spaceflight. The Soviet Union once again achieved a historic first on April 12, 1961, when Yuri Gagarin became the first human to orbit the Earth aboard the Vostok 1 spacecraft. His single-orbit flight lasted 108 minutes and cemented the Soviet Union's lead in crewed spaceflight. The United States responded on May 5, 1961, when Alan Shepard became the first American in space aboard the Mercury Redstone 3 spacecraft. However, Shepard's suborbital flight was shorter than Gagarin's orbital journey, highlighting the continued Soviet advantage in rocket power. Determined to regain the initiative, President John F. Kennedy delivered a bold speech to Congress on May 25, 1961, setting the ambitious goal of landing a man on the moon before the end of the decade. This declaration dramatically shifted the focus of the space race towards the lunar frontier and galvanized American efforts. The ensuing years witnessed a flurry of activity by both nations as they pursued increasingly complex and challenging missions. The Soviet Union continued to achieve significant firsts in human spaceflight, including the first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova, 1963, the first multi-person crew, Voskhod 1, 1964, and the first spacewalk, Alexei Leonov, 1965. The United States, under the auspices of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, embarked on the Mercury and Gemini programs to develop the necessary technologies and experience for lunar missions. The Mercury program focused on single-pilot orbital flights, while the Gemini program involved two-person spacecraft and included crucial milestones such as the first American spacewalk, Ed White, 1965, the first orbital rendezvous and docking of two spacecraft, and extended duration flights to simulate long lunar journeys. Uncrewed exploration, probing the solar system. While the race for human spaceflight captured much of the public's attention, both the US and the Soviet Union also pursued ambitious uncrewed missions to explore the Moon and the planets. The Soviet Union achieved the first successful impact on the Moon with Luna 2 in September 1959 and followed this with Luna 3 in October 1959, which captured the first images of the far side of the Moon. They also achieved the first soft landing on the Moon with Luna 9 in February 1966 and deployed the first lunar rover, Lunokhod 1, in November 1970. The United States also made significant strides in lunar and planetary exploration with its Ranger, Surveyor, and Lunar Orbiter programs, which provided crucial data and images for planning the Apollo lunar landings. The U.S. also launched pioneering interplanetary probes, including Mariner 2, the first spacecraft to fly by another planet, Venus, 1962, and Mariner 4, the first to send back close-up images of Mars, 1965. The Apollo program and the American triumph on the Moon. President Kennedy's lunar landing goal became the driving force behind the Apollo program, a massive and complex undertaking that involved hundreds of thousands of scientists, engineers, and contractors. The program faced numerous technical challenges and setbacks, including the tragic Apollo 1 fire in 1967 that claimed the lives of 3 astronauts. However, NASA persevered, and the Apollo program ultimately achieved its objective on July 20, 1969, when Neil Armstrong became the first human to step onto the surface of the Moon during the Apollo 11 mission. His iconic words, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind," resonated around the world and marked a monumental achievement for the United States and humanity as a whole. The Apollo program continued with 5 subsequent crewed lunar landings, each expanding our knowledge of the Moon and conducting scientific experiments. These missions showcased American technological prowess and fulfilled President Kennedy's ambitious vision. Soviet lunar efforts and shifting priorities. While the United States focused on crewed lunar landings, the Soviet Union also had its own lunar ambitions, including crewed flybys and landings. However, their efforts were hampered by delays in the development of their powerful N-1 rocket, which experienced several launch failures. Following the American success with Apollo 11, the Soviet Union shifted its focus towards other areas of space exploration, including the development of long-duration space stations and uncrewed missions to other planets. They launched the world's first space station, Salyut 1, in 1971 and achieved the first soft landing on Mars with Mars 3 in the same year. The end of the race and the dawn of cooperation. The American lunar landings are often considered the culmination and symbolic victory of the space race. While the competition continued in other areas, the intense rivalry of the 1960s gradually gave way to a period of increased cooperation. A significant milestone in this shift was the Apollo-Soyuz test project in 1975, which involved the docking of an American Apollo spacecraft with a Soviet Soyuz spacecraft in Earth orbit. This joint mission symbolized a thaw in Cold War tensions and marked a new era of collaboration in space exploration. Legacy and lasting impact. The space race, despite its origins in Cold War rivalry, had a profound and lasting impact on science, technology, and human society. It spurred unprecedented innovation in rocketry, materials science, electronics, and telecommunications, technologies that continue to benefit us today. The race also led to the establishment of robust space programs and institutions in both the US and the Soviet Union, and later Russia, fostering a culture of scientific inquiry and pushing the boundaries of human endeavor. The stunning images and discoveries from lunar and planetary missions expanded our understanding of the solar system and our place within it, inspiring generations to pursue careers in science and engineering. Furthermore, the space race demonstrated the power of national commitment and investment in achieving ambitious goals. It showcased the potential for human ingenuity and collaboration, even amidst intense competition. While the geopolitical context of the space race has faded, its legacy of technological advancement, scientific discovery, and the pursuit of the unknown continues to drive space exploration in the 21st century. The spirit of innovation and the desire to explore that characterized this era remain vital as humanity looks towards new frontiers in space.